What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another WornKibbles video, and happy summer. This is actually my last day of school, so I'm recording this in the morning before I go to school, but I figured just to celebrate the summer coming in, I would take about 4 of my favorite school stories that I've told this year, and I put them into one video for you guys to watch. So I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get right into the video. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another WornKibbles video. This story is pretty crazy. It's about a time that one of my friends was forced to kiss the most cringe emo kid of all time. It was a pretty dark day for just like, you know, that emo kid's dark, black soul that the world just doesn't understand. But anyway, guys, it's gonna be a good one, so let's get right into it. So, we're going to call this emo kid Edmund, and we're going to call the poor, unfortunate girl that had to kiss Edmund, Sarah. So, with that out of the way, I'll give you guys a bit more background. So, this year, the school was doing a really good musical. Like, everyone was hyped for this musical. I'm not going to say what musical it was, but it was a pretty popular musical, and everyone was basically really excited about it. Specifically, my friend Sarah. It was like her favorite musical of all time, and the role that she ended up getting was one of the main roles in the show. And honestly, like her dream role. So she is super stoked. I mean, who wouldn't be? Until she found out who was playing her romantic interest in the show. Enter Edmund. Now, this kid dresses like he was the back of Spencer's. I'm talking like dog collar, dark oversized jeans, thick eyeliner. Just think of the most stereotypical emo kid. That's him. And now I will say parts of his aesthetic were cool. Like, I know a few skater dudes that absolutely rock the baggy jeans, and they look dope as hell, but this kid was short and skinny as a twig. And I'm not trying to make fun of anybody's body type. I mean, I'm not a big muscular guy myself. But when you are trying to be a cool, grunge, emo bad boy, it doesn't really help when you are the size of a 6th grader. On top of all that, this kid was the most cringe I had probably ever seen. I mean, just to give you guys a little bit of an example of like just how cringe this kid was, the first time that I personally met him, he comes up to me all like, hi, I'm Edmund. You could say I'm pretty cool, but what's your name? And like, you know, like a weeaboo. And I'm pretty sure that he was talking like that unironically. So this is the type of kid that she gets paired with. And she's a little worried right off the bat because she knows that there's a kiss in the show. And that means that she is going to have to kiss cringe final boss Edmund over here. But she just kind of tries to convince herself it won't be that bad. Like, everything will be okay. It's not like this kiss means anything because it's for a show, which is true. Like, kissing somebody for a show is completely different than just kissing them in real life. I mean, obviously, but still, if I had to kiss Edmund, I think I would be running away screaming. But either way, Sarah decides to just put up with Edmund because, of course, it's like her dream role for a show. So eventually, we get around to the first rehearsal. And when we get there, this kid is beyond cocky. I mean, he did get like the best male role in the show, right? But there were also very little guys that tried out for the show, so it wasn't like he got the role because he was an amazing singer or anything. I mean, in fact, it was quite the opposite. This kid cannot read music at all, which no shame to anybody if they can't read music, but if you are in a musical, I think that might be a little bit important. And so we're sitting at rehearsal, and he is trying to sing along to the music without even looking at the music on the page. And let me tell you, I think a fire alarm going off would have sounded better than this kid. He is so incredibly far off that I lean forward and I'm like, hey, dude, why aren't you, like, looking at the music? Because, of course, he's not only sounding like a dying goat, but he is also messing up, like, most of the words of the song when they are literally on the piece of paper that he is currently holding. And this kid turns around to me and, completely serious, is just like, well, I don't know how to read music, and everybody that I've asked about my singing says I'm great, so why would I change what I'm doing now? Bro, that had to be a lie, because there was no way that anybody was telling him that he sounded good. I mean, it was so bad. Like, you know that saying where it's like, it's so bad only a mother could love it? There ain't no way this kid's mama was loving it. There was no Happy Meal, no McChicken, ba-da-ba-ba-ba, no sir. This was a literal assault on our eardrums. Nobody is loving it. So rehearsal continues, and while the rest of the cast is trying to actually, act, Edmund is busy treating the auditorium like it's his own personal dark aesthetic music video. He's leaning against the stage props, sighing dramatically, and trying to give everyone the smoldering stare through an inch of eyeliner. It was like watching a middle schooler try to audition for a vampire movie that nobody asked for. Somehow, in the first rehearsal, he had gotten Sarah's phone number, claiming that it was because they had to work together because they were like the main parts or whatever, but Edmund had other plans. The moment Sarah got home from rehearsal, he started sending her just a wall of text, saying that they were going to be so good and so much better than all of the other leads in the show. And then he proceeded to send like 15 messages just trash talking other people in the cast. Keep in mind, Sarah is just trying to process that she got her dream role, and this human Hot Topic ad is already in her DMs trying to start a high school drama war. But it gets worse. Edmund was a total two-faced diva. He started trash-talking Sarah to like a bunch of other people in the cast, and then he would just turn around and talk to her about how amazing she was. So one day in rehearsal, he's in the corner trash-talking her to like other cast members, calling her a terrible actress and saying he wishes he was paired with somebody else. And then about 10 minutes later, he went out on stage and completely blew his blocking and all of his acting because he was too busy being a hater and trash talking when he was supposed to be paying attention to the scene. So, of course, my friend Sarah is just getting more and more fed up with this kid. But eventually, the day she feared the most had to come. The day of the kiss. Now, you have to understand that this was in high school, so this was actually going to be Sarah's first kiss, which like really doesn't mean much in retrospect, but from like a high schooler's perspective, that's like a big deal. And because the universe has some sick sense of humor, Sarah is actually losing her voice that day. So she's standing there physically unable to defend herself, and Edmund starts cornering her. He keeps asking, "Is this your first kiss? Is it?" And when she finally nods, this kid, this skinny eyeliner wearing Discord mod sounding kid, looks her in the eyes and says, "Well, at least you're doing it with someone you like and not someone like gross or anything." I'm sorry, what? You're not gross? The ego on this guy is big enough to have its own zip code. Sarah didn't even like him. Nobody liked him. He was the human equivalent to a damp basement. Nobody wants to hang out there. And then, right before the scene starts, he looks at her and just whispers, "Don't worry, I have lots of practice." Bro, practice with what? Your anime body pillow? When they actually lean in, Sarah said it was like being pressed against a wet sponge. The kid had the wettest lips in recorded history. She literally had to wipe her mouth every single time the scene ended just to feel clean again. But wait, it gets worse. And I know what you're all thinking. How could that possibly get worse? Well, this was the first time they had kissed, which was a rehearsal. Meaning she had a few more times to get the emo Edmund experience. The night of the performance came, and as Sarah walks on stage into the scene where they kiss, she sees what has to be probably the worst thing that you're going to see when you have to kiss a cringe emo kid. Honestly, worst thing that you're going to see when you have to kiss anybody. He has a piece of leftover food stuck to his lip. And as this kiss grew near, it wasn't falling off. And soon it was time for the kiss. And as he pulls her in, she notices something almost just as bad. Underneath the hot stage light and thick emo eyeliner and coat he was wearing, Edmund had turned into a literal ball of sweat. And she puts her hand on the back of his neck to make the kiss more dramatic and realizes that was one of the worst mistakes of her entire life. The back of this kid's neck was so sweaty and gross. She said that it literally felt like she was touching a piece of slimy, raw chicken. And as she leans in, she prayed that at least the piece of food on his lip would fall off, but no such miracle came. So When the curtain dropped, she was not bowing. She was gagging and running to find a wet wipe for her hand and some way to wash out her mouth. Looking back, I honestly don't know how Sarah made it through that closing night without actually calling for a medical evacuation. She got to play her dream role, sure, but she had to survive a biohazard and raw chicken neck to do it. So, moral of the story, if you're in theater and your romantic lead looks like he's about to drop a mid-2000s emo album, maybe think twice before auditioning. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another WornKibbles video. Today I've got a crazy story for you all about a girl in my class who had some serious anger issues. I mean, it got so bad that when a kid named Kyle annoyed her one time, she ended up destroying our school computer lab. Nowadays, if you ask her about it, she'll try and deny it like crazy. So I figured I'd make a video about it to leave its legacy behind. So without further ado, leave a like and let's get right into it. Alright, so there are a few key characters in this story. First of all, we have Kyle, who is absolutely what you picture when you imagine a kid named Kyle. I mean, there's something about that name that just makes you picture his lips, stained with a red circle from suctioning his mouth onto the red Gatorade that he constantly uses to basically inject himself with Red 40. I mean, Kyle is just the kind of kid who is the arch enemy of drywall. That name just screams socially unaware and likes to snack on the forbidden cotton candy inside the school walls. And our next character here, who, believe it or not, is actually the villain. Yes, I know, crazy that there's a story about a kid named Kyle where he is not the bad guy, but, I mean, it just really goes to show how bad this girl is, and we're gonna call her Michaela. Now, Michaela had what some of us would call extreme anger issues, which is a little bit unusual because usually that sort of thing is what, like, the boys had in school. I mean, come on, we all had that one kid named Thomas in our second grade class who flipped the desks and had to be carried out of the classroom while he tried to bite the teacher on the way out. I mean, it was pretty much a shared elementary experience. But in this case, Michaela was the one with anger issues, and to make it even worse, this wasn't exactly in second grade anymore. This happened in, like, sixth grade. So, anyway, this story takes place during a class that we had that was called Exploratory, and I don't know exactly what it's called in other places, or if other places even had it, but it's basically a computer class. Like, we learned how to do a little bit of coding, and so, of course, the class took place in our school computer lab, and I don't know if a lot of newer schools have these anymore, but it was just a room in the library with, like, a bunch of really nice desktop PCs. I mean, they weren't really nice, but, like, they were pretty good in standards of, like, school computers. So, we're in the library, and this is probably one of the better classes that we have, because we get to learn, like, code stuff, and as a kid, I had always really been into computers. And in fact, I'd say I totally still am, but I thought that the class was pretty fun, and somebody else agreed with me on that statement quite a bit, and that kid's name was Kyle. Now, you have to understand something about Kyle. He is passionate. He's a guy who cares a lot, and a guy who will talk a lot about the stuff that he's passionate about, and I mean talk for hours and never stop. Honestly, I wish that I had that sort of stuff that I could talk about. Like, I mean, good for him for being so passionate. I mean, I think the only thing that even comes close for me is YouTube right now, which is why I would love if you subbed real quick. This is genuinely my passion. I put a lot of work into making these videos. But anyway, despite being happy for Kyle, I will admit it did get annoying because, you know, Kyle just didn't really know when people didn't want to listen to him. He just couldn't really tell. And that kind of person doesn't really mix extremely well with somebody who has anger issues. So at the start of this particular day, our class starts. We have work time. I mean, our teacher just like explained our project for the day and basically just let us go. So we're all typing away and stuff. We're writing our little program. I mean, we're probably just like coding how to make a button on the computer. And Kyle eventually stands up and starts walking around just giving everybody advice. And I'm not saying it was bad advice, but it was unasked for advice because Kyle walks up behind Michaela and he just goes, "You did that wrong," or something along those lines. I mean, he was trying to help, but because of his Kyle-ness and social unawareness, he was basically just kind of insulting Michaela. And at first, Michaela goes, "Thanks, Kyle. If I wanted your advice, I would have asked." Which, like, that's completely fair. But she said it just kind of loud enough for everybody to hear. And so the class is now kind of paying attention. Like, you know how a middle school class acts when there's any drama. They swarm it like flies. But anyway, Kyle just stays there and goes, "Are you gonna fix it?" And that ticks Michaela off even more. Like, I can tell she is barely holding back. Her face is physically turning red, but she tries to get back one last time and goes, Kyle, please go away, or I'm gonna get really mad. And Kyle just goes, well, yeah, but that's still wrong. Are you gonna fix it? And Michaela just blows up, bro. She stands up and goes, I warned you that this would happen. Now you will face my wrath. Ah! And she just stands up, starts screaming. She grabs this chair and full on chucks it at Kyle. And thankfully, Kyle was able to dodge it. It flies past his head, narrowly missing him. But while it did miss Kyle, it didn't miss the computer that was sitting on the desk behind Kyle. And so this chair slams into this monitor, just shattering it, destroying the screen completely. And so Michaela is just standing there like, oh crap. Like, you know when you can see on someone's face when they realize that they've made like a really big mistake? Like, you can kind of just see her face like, oh no. And she runs out of the room. So the teacher over this time has been like shocked at how quickly this whole thing has escalated, but he quickly just like grabs his phone and calls the office saying that she threw a chair and nobody was hurt, but that she broke a monitor and is now on the run. So the office staff now have to go on a manhunt to find Michaela, and we're basically locked in the room until they can get her to, like, I don't know, make sure that the hallways were safe or whatever. And we didn't actually see her for a few days after that, but you can best believe that the story of what happened spread like wildfire. I mean, the whole school knew about it, probably by the end of that day. But the funny thing is, nowadays, she will completely deny that it ever happened. People will ask her if she remembers the time that she destroyed the computer lab, and she will try and claim that it never even happened, even though the class literally witnessed it with their own eyes. I mean, she's really out here just being like, that must have been a different Michaela. But I'm just joking, guys. I mean, she's a great person, super nice. I mean, that was just back in the day when our emotional systems weren't all developed yet, you know? So, this is all in good fun. But anyway, that's about it for the story, guys. Moral of the story, don't tell Michaela her code is wrong, or else you're gonna get a chair thrown at your head. And the only way to survive that is if you can dodge it like Kyle, and you gotta have quick reflexes for that. So quick, hit the like button. Today, I've got yet another school story for y'all, and you all seem to be really liking the school-themed disasters lately, so I figured I'd take you back today. Like, way back to my third grade classroom. That's right, we are doing yet another story of something terrible that happened to me in third grade. And this is the story of how I almost got suspended because of a math game and a 10-pound beige computer tower. It was just, it was so dumb. And honestly, it was probably like the third time that I got into like big trouble that year. The staff all definitely hated me at this point, but anyway, it's a crazy one, so let's get right into it. So our principal, I don't actually remember her name, so we're just going to call her Miss Clack. And I call her that because I distinctly remember the click-clack of her heels in the hallway. It was like, you know, in movies when the monster is coming and you just hear like the breathing first, it was like her personal Jaws theme. That was her. Whenever you heard that sound hitting the tile floor, you just start paying attention, you know, just straightening the line in the hallway, that kind of stuff, just acting like a saint. And those of you who have been subscribed know that this lady, along with like all of my teachers in this school, were absolutely biased against me for some reason. Like, I was the troublemaker kid. And there was some lady that one time tried to frame me for throwing poop, and that wasn't even true. So rest assured, I've spent way too many hours sitting at the back table of my classroom, like shivering with fear as that slow click-clack got closer and closer to the classroom. I mean, I've made a video about the time that I tried to start a fire on the playground. I'll link that in the corner. But this time, guys, I swear I was actually innocent. Honestly, I blame the technology. For my younger audience, I know that you all get like personal laptops now, which is kind of strange to me, but back in my day, we had tower PCs, just two giant beige cubes in the back of the room that everyone shared. Every week, we'd get our time to log into this learning game. It was like you do 2 plus 2, you get a point. And you can buy outfits for your little 8-bit character. It was peak entertainment for a 9-year-old. I mean, it kind of just made learning a little bit more fun, a little bit less sucky. And of course, on the day of this story, it was my turn on the device. I mean, it was my turn on the computer. And so I'm going about my business. I'm playing the learning game, racking up my 2 plus 2 points. Been on that grind since I was 9, baby. But eventually, even math games get boring. And I've always been a bit of a button pusher. I mean, I like to know what things do. I like to know how things work. So when I discover the print screen button, of course, I'm gonna press it. I push this button, right? Now, this screen pops up and a box asks how many copies I want to print. Now, in my 3rd grade head, 0 means nothing. So I thought if I type 100 zeros into this box and hit print, it wouldn't actually do anything. It's like multiplying by 0. It just disappears, right? So I mashed the 0 key until the screen is just full, just like held down that keycap for like a minute straight. And then I slammed that print button like I was winning a jackpot, and nothing happened. No noise, no paper came out of the tower. I thought, sweet, computer is as dumb as I am. And I just went back to my desk to finish my coloring sheet. I practically forgot about it. But you all know that couldn't possibly be where the story ends. That would be the universe just being way too nice to me. And sure enough, like 10 minutes later, the hallway goes silent. And I just hear that terrifying click, clack, click, clack of Mrs. Clack's heels on the linoleum floor. And the classroom door swings open. And it's just Miss Clack. She's just standing there. And bro, she looks like she just discovered a crime scene. She's carrying a stack of paper like it was a literal mountain of wood pulp. She walks straight to my desk and says, "WornKibbles, why is there a stack of paper in a library as high as a bookshelf sitting on the printer?" And I play it cool, I give her the classic, "I don't know," which is like the most dangerous sentence a 3rd grader can say. Of course, this was a big mistake. She pulls the top sheet off the stack like she's a detective presenting DNA evidence. And she goes, "Oh, well, if you don't know, then why does every single paper have your name on it?" And she holds it up and my heart just drops. So it turns out that when you press the print screen button on the school dashboard, funnily enough, it actually prints your screen, like what's on your screen. And what my personal screen had been on at the time was my homepage of that math game. And of course, this screen has a giant header at the top of the page with my first name, last name, and student ID in big, bold letters. I hadn't just printed a few pages. I had sent a 5,000-page manifesto of nothing but my full identification report and my little math game character to the school library. I had basically decimated the school's paper supply. The librarian thought the printer was possessed, and Miss Clack thought that I was trying to sabotage the school budget. So, of course, I spend the rest of the day in the office trying to explain that I thought 0 meant nothing. And honestly, it should have been. I mean, come on. The computer really said, well, there's only zeros here. He must have meant 10,000 and not just a bunch of zeros. That was not my fault at all. The machine did not do what I told it to do. I told it to print 0. It's going to give you a stack as tall as the tree that it destroyed to get there. But of course, I get this whole talk, printing this many copies is so wasteful, and you've wasted so much money, and you should really think about the environment more. And I'm just there lady, I really did not mean to print these. I'm so serious. I did not mean to do this. This was a mistake. But of course, they think that I'm the peak prankster of our generation. They think that everything that I've done that has been just a little bit inconvenient for them has been me plotting against them. I just really want to destroy this school. I want to destroy their lives, I'm really out here plotting to get Becky fired by printing so many copies that the school loses funding and they have to start making budget cuts. Come on, I'm in 3rd grade, guys. But anyway, I guess they just thought that I was an evil genius. And you want to know the best part? So years later, after I had already moved on to like middle school, so this is like 4 years in the future, I had to go back to the elementary school library for something. I walk in, I see a basket on the counter for scrap paper, and I look down, and I kid you not, they were still using my 0 pages as scrap material. There I was, 3 years later, and kids were still drawing on the back of my 3rd grade accidental crime. My legacy was literally being used for doodle paper. I mean, really, I should have just put like subscribe on there because, I mean, I bet they're still using them today. I printed a lot of copies. I could have racked in some viewers from that. But I could just envision it now. Some little kid is like, Miss Clack, who is WornKibbles? And her eyes just like sharpen as she goes into like a flashback state. Just be glad you don't know. He's a menace to learning. But anyway, guys, that's the story of the printer incident. Today, I've got a story that I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy where my teacher tried to write me up over having a croissant in her class. It was pretty stupid, and I ended up getting in trouble for absolutely no good reason whatsoever, but I hope you guys can enjoy my suffering and leave a like, and let's get right into it. This story happened a few years ago in one of those classes that everyone would really just kind of hated, and it wasn't exactly because the class content was bad, if you catch my drift. It was because of the teacher. Now, we're going to call this teacher Miss Turner. Now, Miss Turner was one of those teachers who was super strict. Like, she wouldn't let you work on any other teacher's work during her class, not even if you finished all of her assignments. And she wouldn't accept late work at all, even if it wasn't even your fault. Like, there was one day when the school Wi-Fi went out, and we had an online assignment. Nobody could do it, and we all showed her our computers, but she didn't believe us. She called us all hackers, thinking we were trying to trick her, and gave us zeros on the assignment. She was actually crazy. Plus, her tests were way harder than they needed to be. Like, they would be asking me about the Revolutionary War when we just learned about China. So, it was safe to say Miss Turner was no joke. There was no talking, no bathroom breaks, no tomfoolery during her class, no sir. But wait, it gets worse. While she had all these strict rules and everything, she would break them all the time. One of her rules that she strictly enforced was no eating in her classroom. However, she would eat basically every single day. I one time witnessed Miss Turner eat 5 whole cosmic brownies in one period. But as soon as I want to eat an apple, she would act like it was contraband. And well, that brings us to the story. So a key detail to this story is that I pack my own lunch to school every day because, well, I'm sure you guys have had school lunch before and it's not necessarily famous for being very good. And I like my food to be good, so, I bring it myself. And on this particular day, I hadn't finished all of my lunch, and Miss Turner was my last period of the day. This means that, just like any good gamer, I get a little bit hungry. It's been a few hours since I fueled up, and I conveniently have my leftovers with me, and I want to eat something, but I know I can't eat because she would totally yell at me. But in my head, I'm thinking she eats like every day in this period, so I'll just wait until she starts eating something. Surely she can't yell at me for eating while she was eating. I mean, come on, the hypocrisy. Even Miss Turner couldn't possibly be blind to that. And sure enough, just like clockwork, about 10 minutes into class, she gives us table work and goes to sit down behind her big desk. She pulls out, I kid you not, a full, unopened, family-size bag of Cool Ranch Doritos, which, by the way, I'll give her this. That is the best flavor. Cool Ranch over Nacho. I don't care what you all say. You can debate me in the comments about it, but I'm right. Miss Turner knows what's up. But I'm like, let's go. I can eat now. I've been so hungry all day. And so she starts munching and crunching on those chips, and I start looking in my lunchbox to see what I've got. Now, I've got a few things. I got a granola bar, banana, all that good stuff. And so I'm just kind of eating throughout the class, and she doesn't really notice. So things are going well. I'm thinking if she notices, it'll be fine because she's eating too, but it's even better because she doesn't even notice. And things move on with really no incident until we are in about the last 15 minutes of class, and her munching starts to slow to a stop. And I look up at her basically in awe because this means that Miss Turner had just opened and finished an entire family-sized bag of Doritos in about 20 minutes. And I'm not trying to, say anything, but she wasn't exactly the type of teacher who was going to be calling us kids her little second family. So, the family-sized bag of chips? Well, that's kind of a lot if you're gonna tell people that they can't eat in your class. But, she stands up to go throw away the empty bag, and when she stands up, it gives her a little bit of the high ground. She can get a little bird's eye view of the classroom, and, well, I'm telling you, Miss Turner had an eye like a hawk when it came to food. I'm sure she would be able to see a tiny raisin on the floor in the corner of the classroom and immediately start interrogating the entire class to find out who could have possibly brought such banned food items into her classroom. Now, I had something a little bit bigger than a raisin in my hand. I had gotten to the last and, of course, coincidentally biggest item left over in my lunch bag. I had a croissant. She stops midway to the trash can, family-sized bag in hand, her eyes sharpen, and she turns a cold glare at me and just goes, "WornKibbles, what is in your hand?" I freeze, trying to think of my best course of action. Should I run? Should I accept my fate? But I figured she was just eating. She can't get too mad at me, and I decide to try and just downplay it. I mean, if I act like it wasn't a big deal, then maybe she would too. So I just go, "Oh, it's a croissant." And I don't know why. I don't know if it was how I said it, but I somehow broke the awkward tension in the room, and about half the class broke out laughing. And this didn't exactly make my situation better because it made Miss Turner mad. And she goes, "No, everyone stop. Stop laughing. This is serious." And that just, have you guys ever seen that video of that one teacher screaming "No, pomegranates." And she was just sounding like that lady. And of course, this makes more people start laughing. And it's hilarious. But I'm just thinking, oh, God, no, because this is just getting worse and worse for me. And Miss Turner basically has steam coming out of her ears at this point. She slams her hand down on the desk, throws down the empty bag of chips, goes, "Everybody quiet!" And the room basically goes silent. I'm screwed. She walks over to me, rips the croissant out of my hands, marches over to the trash can, and throws it away as the entire class watches in silence, probably about to suffocate from holding back their own laughter, and Miss Turner goes, "WornKibbles, you have caused such a disruption. You know there is no food in my class. You should have known better. You need to go to the office." And I'm just like, what? Because she was just eating, and now she wants to write me up for what she was just doing. I wasn't going to stand for this. I stood up. I go, "Miss Turner, I just watched you eat an entire family-sized bag of Doritos in this class period. How can you expect me to not eat when you are eating the portions of a small middle-class family?" And she doesn't have a response to that. Because there is no defense. Honestly, there's nothing that she could have said. She had a lunch period she could have eaten in just like the rest of us. She's got zero excuses. So I was right. But at what cost? You know the saying, you never want to corner a wild animal? Well, when you corner a wild animal, it makes them desperate. And it makes them fight back with every ounce of their being. And while I was right, she had all the power. And she goes, "Well, now you're getting a major referral, and if you don't go to the office now, I'm going to call them and have the APs drag you out." And, let's just say that got me out of there pretty quickly. I went right to the office and just stayed there for the last 10 minutes of the day. And when I got up there, I did get pretty lucky because the people in the office said, "We're not going to deal with you right now. There's 5 minutes left in the entire school day right now. So, you can just apologize tomorrow." And surprisingly, after that, I apologized to Miss Turner, and our relationship improved, and I'd be willing to say that I was one of her favorite students by the end of the year. Crazy turnaround, really, but anyway, that's about it. Moral of the story is, don't call your teacher family-sized. It doesn't really end too well. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like. I post more content just like this every single week, new story times weekly, so make sure you turn on those notifications. Anyway, hope you all have a great summer. Definitely don't forget to use code WornKibbles at checkout for the all-clean energy drink with 150 milligrams of caffeine. That's a lot, but it's good, trust. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.